Getting rich with Bitcoin. 3 emotional pitfalls that will stop you from life-changing wealth that you're here for. Now, I'm looking forward to being live with you today. There are some thoughts on my mind on this crypto journey, some pain points that come up that are hurdles that will shake us out from life-changing wealth. I want to share with you these 3 pain points. I specifically wanted to share these with you because many of you are new to the market, at least newer than 4.5 years ago. Some have been around for that long and gotten shaken out. And it's very easy, and it happens. We'll also cover some important developments as the crypto slowly pushes towards global use and adoption. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. And if you like money in crypto and you're looking for a real investor's take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. You can do that as easily as liking this video and subscribing with the all notifications bell enabled. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself, and I share with you how I think about the crypto market and specific cryptos I like. As always, do your own research and make your own decisions. This is my take on it. As somebody with just 4.5 years crypto experience, I did have 20 years investment experience prior to this, but these are my thoughts and also fitting my risk profile. Note, I do own or plan to own most of what I talk about on this channel because specifically I don't talk about projects I don't like. Special shout out to our Patreon members. We have a private Discord that our Patreon members get access to. There's a link below to our Patreon if it's of interest to you. We want to welcome Yo-Yo Mars, J Solo 9, and Mike Bedard that recently joined us. Now, at the beginning, it often says that there's sponsored content on this. That is because of our strategic relationship with WanChain, who've been good to us, and they give us 500 won every month to give away to the audience. And we'll be giving away 125 WanChain today. Now, make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show. Let's welcome our producer, D Money.
What up, Jay? How's it going today, man?
Good.
I am so happy to be live again. Like, it's kind of funny because we like it was difficult going live, like, and getting into that groove. And then it's like once we stop going live, and I love the shorter videos. I really think that that's the way to go. But like, it's just nice to be live again. I'm seeing some old buddies in the chat. J24, what's going on, man? Chris Ashby, Mario Muslim was the first one here. Hello, Navy SEALs of Crypto, he says. Chris Ashby, per D's request, I have Mario partied, the like button. Jay, you weren't around on Wednesday night, but that was our new. We're either gently caressing the like button, we're making it rain on the like button, or we are Mario partying the like button. Just tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it. Anyway, man, yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, you know, it's a great time to be in the crypto market. As much as it feels emotionally like it's a bad time, you're going to find out that today and these past few months have been a perfect time to be in the crypto market.
Right. I'm
now,
excited.
The audience out there, did you see yesterday's episode with Paul? And are you seeing what I'm seeing? The fundamental and technical science are prepping for a massive run. Today's title is about the wealth that is possible with crypto, but only through pushing through a lot of pain. Now, it's okay with you in the audience that we have a reality check today. We're getting close to that time when crypto goes bananas, or at least that's my opinion of what's going to happen soon in the coming months. And it's going to be fun, but our emotions can shake us out. And I want to share with you a few personal stories as well as some general stories. Now, emotional pitfall that tries to shake us out. Number one, the stories of others make us feel like we are way behind. Just as I say this, you're already thinking of exactly how true this is. Did you know almost everyone feels this? It's because we often compare others' best days to our worst days. We often focus on what is going wrong versus what is going right or what has gone right. Now, when the market goes crazy, and likely it will, these feelings do melt away for some, but if we let these emotions shake us out before then, we won't get to that point where the massive gains come. Emotional pitfall trying to shake you out. Number two. My portfolio value is way down. That's hard, right? Emotionally, just on an emotional level. And as I say this, most of you are probably feeling exactly this, right? Did you know that 85% of the gains happen in close to 8% of the time? Think back to the story I often share about dollar cost averaging into Cardano. during the bear market. I first started buying on its way down back in 2019, and I bought it at like 12 cents, and then more at 8 cents, and then more at 5 cents, and then more at 4 cents, and then more at 3 cents. If you think about it, my ADA portfolio back then, is it fair to say that it was down probably 60, maybe even 70%? And then when the price went down to 1.7 cents, my entire ADA portfolio was down like crazy numbers, 70, 80% or more from my average purchase price. Now, it doesn't feel good, but it is normal. And this is why I spend extra time doing fundamental research on projects, because I'm looking for signs that the project is strong enough to have longevity, because the crypto market runs in cycles. And just as there are down markets, they do flip around, and they flip around suddenly and sharply. And I like to have my positions in, waiting patiently for those sharp increases. But that doesn't mean I'm not a human being. And when my portfolio value is way down, it doesn't mean it's not hard. I just don't sell. But some people have taken the other approach, and most have really regretted it. Emotional pitfall number 3 is trying to shake you out of your position before the market goes parabolic. Is straight up the emotions over time. Did you know that we are not logical creatures having sometimes emotional experiences? We are emotional creatures who sometimes use logic, but often that logic is just to justify our mostly emotional decisions. Do you know that only 5% of people are usually really successful at almost anything? That is really only 5% that really makes there is really only 5% that makes really crazy gains in crypto. When I was new at crypto, I wasn't new to investing, and I knew in theory these statistics, but it was October 2017. The market was going crazy over the next few months from then, and I couldn't imagine that 95% of the people would lose money in crypto. So Bitcoin went from 6.2 thousand or 6,200 to 20,000. And then it went all the way down to 3,200. And I saw exactly that 95% of people left during the long and boring bear market. Instead of adding to their positions, they dumped and they left. In my mind, I was thinking, how could they not understand that every market does this? This is part of the cycle. If they are just patient, it will flip around again. And they'll make crazy money if they are in projects that survive the bear market and show solid signs of life. Now, why would anyone make that decision? Well, the market's been kind of boring for about a year now, right? February and March of last year was crazy good. We had some parts of crypto take off in October and November. And though we are still in a general trend up, the massive rains of crypto growth have not come yet. That parabolic move. A few suggest that was last March, and it could be the case, though my personal thoughts are that most likely the major move is ahead of us. Let me share with you this Bitcoin chart as we talk about exactly that. All right, so here I've got TradingView. Now, I use this chart a lot, and this is the Brave New Liquid Coin Index, and it goes back quite a bit. And I've talked about these different peaks, but let me share with you some thoughts. So this is the peak of 2017 that went just under 20,000, and here was our recent high of almost 70,000. So that's a 3.5x from the previous high, which seems like a lot, but is it? We don't have a lot of these massive peaks that have happened. And if you've been a follower of the channel for a while, you know that I talk about this a lot, because this is where my thesis comes from, that we still have a massive bull run ahead of us. Now, every 4 years, there's a Bitcoin halving. And what's interesting is about a year after the Bitcoin halving is a massive price spike in Bitcoin. It starts to gain some momentum. A lot of people FOMO in. It goes all the way up, has a blow off top, and then comes back down. Now, the first Bitcoin halving happened the 26th of November 2012, and almost a year later was the peak of the Bitcoin market, that cycle. So 1 year later. The next cycle in 2016 was a Bitcoin halving. The price happened from right here, and then the price went up crazy. Now, I'm going to measure some things. So I'm going to go back here to this first run from when the halving was to the increase in price. So I'm going to grab our ruler here, and we'll see what kind of returns it did from the top. And it went to about 1,200. So that is an 80x that it made from when the Bitcoin halving happened to the top of the peak. So an 80x. Now let's look at the 2016 halving and the 2017 peak. And let's see what kind of gains it made from the halving to the peak. So the first cycle made an 80x. What did this cycle make? Let's go here. Let's go up to just under 20,000. And it made a solid 36x. So not as high, and you're seeing a little bit less volatility. We also see something else happen. So that's still, I mean, can anyone complain about that kind of gain? 36x, that's amazing. But there's something else that we note. There is more time between the two. So this one was 368 days between when the halving happened and when the peak happened. This one was 526 days between when this halving happened and when the peak happened. Okay, so I did some math on just how, as a percentage basis, the lengthening cycle that happened, when that may give us our peak of the next bull run. And my math said the 23rd of May. Now, I'm not seeing enough climb yet to think that's going to happen so soon. There's just not enough room for it to complete this and go to the highs. So possibly the 23rd of May, it's not going to hit that, though it should already be trending in the right direction if this thesis is right. Now, why do I feel so strong that this was not the top? So we saw that there was first like an 85x or something between when the halving happened and the peak. This time we saw a much smaller number. So it is decreasing with less volatility every time. But let's measure that again. That was roughly, I didn't give myself enough room. That's not going to work. Okay. So we're looking at what, about a 28x. I could have actually put that a little bit lower. So it's maybe a little bit higher than that. And then, so people that suggest that this March was ours, number one, that would have been very, very early, which still is a possibility. But we're only talking about a 7.5x. Now, I tend to think our run from the top of this peak, we haven't had it yet, and that probably it'll take us to a range of about 150 to 180,000. Whoa. And what that would look like is here. See, the halving happened right about there. So at 150,000, that would be a 17x, and 180,000 would put us at about a 20x. And those are the numbers that I think are more realistic. There's still decreasing volatility, and it's not going to be as big as the previous gains were because we see less volatility as the price climbs. As you gain more traction through major adoption, there aren't as many people left in the world that can still adopt it, because part of what drives the price so high is new groups of people that aren't invested into it come in and they invest what they have into it. So when you can't reach any more people, then the only way for it to continue to increase is that people put a bigger percentage of their funds in it. But the massive growth happens as bigger adoption happens. And so there's still only a small percentage of the people in the world using it, but that percentage is no longer like 0.5%. In some countries, it's anywhere from 15 to 30%. So we are seeing massive adoption. We aren't seeing the wave of institutional funds really come in yet, and that will drive prices bonkers when that happens. Now, we talked about that the other day and what was driving that and why the major institutions aren't in Bitcoin in a meaningful way. And that problem won't be solved till some regulation gets fixed. Right. What are we noticing in the chat, D? Any ones catch your eye? We got you on mute. Can't hear you.
Come on, D, get off of mute. It's rookie. No, there's not a ton going in. Cardano King asked, I didn't know if you wanted to cover this. Thoughts on XPRT persistence on the Cosmos network. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I don't.
I appreciate Zach Kessler. He says it's 1 a.m. here in Thailand, but he's hanging with us. So it's good to see you, Zach, per usual. Irving God, I wonder what your thoughts were about this. Only two things that will pump this market: regulatory clarity and Biden out of office. Thoughts?
Well, Biden out of office may be a good or bad thing. It has to do with what the new administration's policies would be on crypto, right? So the devil you know over the devil you don't, it really depends. Now, I think the politicians are getting the trend. We talked about this in the pre-live stream prior to this that our Patreon members get access to, but we talked about the growing trend of politicians towards being Bitcoin friendly and how many people. So in the US, there was Janet Yellen is suspected to be behind it, snuck in some provisions into a Senate bill through a no-name senator, or at least one I'd never heard of, into the bill. And it kind of got snuck in there and stuck in there. And because of some other arguments over other things, the Democrats and Republicans couldn't really take it out. And so many senators said they got calls like from lots and lots of people over that with extreme frustrations. And they started to become aware of how many people are so passionate about the crypto subject. See, your calls to your politicians do make a difference. And they made a bigger difference in the long term than the short term, because that one they couldn't change, actually. So a lot of Democrats flipped to wanting to remove it, who had previously been for it. And a lot of Republicans were against it to begin with and wanted it taken out, but they couldn't take it out. And so that did make them aware of how passionate that voters were in the US on this and how many single issue voters there were. Now, single issue voters have a lot of power. It means you don't care whether Democrat or Republican, but if you touch and interfere with Bitcoin, sorry, I'm voting for your opponent. I'm probably even going to donate to your opponent, even if everything else you're doing I like. And that's called a single issue voter. And politicians get really scared of ending up on the wrong side of those voters' votes. And so you're seeing most politicians flip somewhat crypto friendly. So the likelihood that an incoming administration would be more pro crypto, I would say it's likely, but we'd have to look at the specific candidate. If it was Elizabeth Warren, I'm not sure how well that's going to go for the US and crypto. Now, what's funny is the US thinks it has more power than it has because, yeah, right now it would slow down Bitcoin. It would not stop Bitcoin, but it would stop Bitcoin and crypto development in the US. So it's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot to hurt someone else. That's what the US would be doing by getting massively in the way of crypto. It's not going to stop crypto adoption. It will slow it. And it'll just mean that all the other countries benefit from the technological adoption. So we'll see. The Biden administration definitely came out a lot more positive towards crypto than we suspected would happen. So, but Mike Novogratz had been saying that the Biden administration would get it, back when the election hadn't even happened yet. And he was like, Biden will be very good for crypto. You'll see. I would say he's been okay for crypto. He didn't get it. The government was making a lot of moves to get in the way of crypto adoption under the name of protecting people. And we do see some of that protecting people really get in the way of creating wealth. in favor of likely banks and the big guys, because it's not really about protecting people. You see that, Celsius had to take away paying interest to people in the US who aren't accredited investors. So now, under the name of protecting you, you can't earn interest from your coins if you're in the US and you're not yet rich enough to be an accredited investor. So we talked about that in our Telegram, and my thought was, well, great. Hope many of you are accredited, have enough wealth to be accredited investors after this pump. And if not after this one, then the following one. Because then you fall into a category of accredited investors, and different rules in the U.S. apply to you for sure.
That'd be nice for sure. Mario Muslim asked, an interesting question, could be an interesting discussion. How many bull runs do you think there are until mass adoption?
Yeah, adoption on different depths will continue to happen, but you're seeing in some countries anywhere from 5% usage up to like 30% usage, right? So this run, and then the next one, and then some after that. But after that, you're pretty much got 80% adoption in the world. So it might grow as far as how much people have in it, but there won't be very many more people to reach. So possibly this run, the next one, and a little bit the run after that. And then we'll have hit the major part of the curve, right? You saw the drop in massive gains from Bitcoin. Now, that's not to say there aren't massive gains out there, but there's a reason why the majority of my funds aren't in Bitcoin. They're in higher risk altcoins, because some of these altcoins are still going to experience those kind of like 81x gains that Bitcoin hit from the first halving to the peak. And so that's why I'm in some of these altcoins, because at the time, Bitcoin was a higher risk asset back then. It was way more likely to fail or have a fatal error than it is today. And that's part of the reason that the returns are less, is because the risk is less, as well as a lot more people have adopted it. And so you don't have as many additional people that can come in and swing the price as much. But some of these altcoins are high risk, high potential returns. And that fits my risk profile. So I hold just a little bit in Bitcoin, but most of my stuff is in altcoins. All right, let's see. Zach Hessler says, U.S. government are like annoying helicopter parents. We don't get to play with the other kids in the financial playground. I love that, Zach. That is one of the best analogies I've seen on that. Irving God said, Elizabeth Warren, no. There's something about that woman not for me, right? So if I lived where she's at, she would not be getting my vote. No way. All right. Let's check out some news. This is a really interesting article. Oh, by the way, let's look in at ADA. We covered ADA a couple times, and I kind of drew out what I thought that this would do. And you're seeing it's respecting this trend line so far, but we're seeing if it breaks down below this trend, that's bad news. But it looks like we're forming, and it's continuing in line with what I drew here. Second leg of a W. And then what often happens is it comes up to a major resistance level, doesn't push past it, it breaks down, it comes back down to where this middle line is, hits that support, and then it's off to the races. I'm liking what I'm seeing in the Cardano charts. I did sell some Cardano to roll into some higher risk stuff, but then I sold some higher risk stuff for some more Cardano. So I actually increased my Cardano position. Even though I had to sell some stuff to get into some higher risk stuff, I actually ended up buying even more Cardano at these prices. All right. Robinhood widens user access. This is kind of big. I mean, yes and no. See, one of my big complaints about Robinhood was when you held Bitcoin on Robinhood, you didn't actually have the Bitcoin. You couldn't withdraw it to your own wallet. But they're widening user access for crypto wallet transfers, unveiling plans to support Lightning payments for Bitcoin. So they're doing a lot to integrate with the Lightning network. Whoa, ad popping up. And so that'll be cool. what I'm taking that to mean is you'll be able to actually own it so that you could withdraw it. And I like to see the Lightning Network adoption for Bitcoin, making Bitcoin transfers extremely cheap and easy. And so it'd be great if a lot of the major services like Coinbase and everything out there kind of went to the Lightning Network. And really, we're just sending Bitcoin from one place to another, not even thinking about what network it's being sent on. But in the background, perhaps it's all using Lightning Network, and the fees to transfer things are extremely cheap because Bitcoin can only handle 8 transactions per second, which is really, really slow and gets really, really expensive when the network gets congested. And Lightning is kind of a layer 2 solution, is a fantastic mechanism to make those transfers cheap so that Bitcoin can be used more widely to pay for things. Now, there is a project coming out that looks really, really interesting, and this is Legion Network, and it's billed as the first crypto super app. Now, a super app is one that allows multiple things on it. So they really have these in China, and there's like 2 super apps in China where so much of the day-to-day things are all through one app. And so that's what they're trying for. It's a very bold try. Now, Crypto's team contacted me about them and put me in touch with them. I talked with the team, and I really, really liked it. Now, Crypto doesn't do these kind of videos anymore. He now only covers Bitcoin. But back in 2017, when I was new, he had the very, very best research by far out of everyone on which projects were likely to do good returns. And so when he really likes a project, I weight that pretty highly. And he currently runs with a partner, VLaunch and VPad. And so it is launching on multiple, in fact, a lot of different launch pads. VPad is one of them. And you see it here launching here. One to pay attention to. I think it'll do well. Now, like with everything, like if it goes crazy when it launches, remember, we don't FOMO into things. At the IDO is probably a great price, but as you've seen, sometimes prices then come down below IDO. But I don't ever mind getting in at the IDO price, even if it then goes lower. I know that my price is a pretty good price to begin with. But sometimes from the IDO price, it goes absolutely crazy, and that is not when I buy in, like ever, because it almost never ends well from there. Now, every once in a while, it still goes crazy from there. I just don't like those odds. Does that make sense? So if it goes crazy, and perhaps it won't because the market is generally down, but if it does go crazy, my thought is I don't chase green candles, even if I love the project. But that is definitely a project to watch. This is Legion Network. Let me show you. Now, some things on this that I really, really liked when I talked to the team. I took some notes, and he was just going through, gosh, I couldn't even write fast enough because I was writing these notes by hand. But it already has 1 million downloads. That's huge for a project that doesn't even have a token launched yet. The 20th is their actual token generation event. So that's in 5 days. So the launch on VPad and some of these other launch pads is sooner. They have 2 parts of it, the Blue Moon side and the Legion side. Basically NFTs and gaming integration on the Blue Moon side. And then on the Legion side, some other things that you'll be able to do. So imagine your social media, your NFTs, and other things in the same app. Now, there's a lot of people going for this space. What I liked about Legion is they've been working on this stuff for 18 months, silently in the background, doing the hard work, self-funding. And so there's a lot of projects that have this great idea, but they haven't backed it with their own money. They basically came up with the concept, wrote a white paper, and then they're trying to raise 10 or 20 million to hopefully make that happen. And some of those work out. But what I like to see better is that somebody is self-funded or bootstrapped it for a year to 2 years and been working in the background because they're so committed to it. I like to see that. I feel much more comfortable about that type of project. To some other news, Coinbase is working to increase their transparency with new listings with a Q2 asset roadmap, talking about which ones they may be adding. There could be as many as 50 new tokens listed on Coinbase. That would be great. A lot of people's first experience with crypto is Coinbase. For the most part, Coinbase seems like it's really secure. So it gives people a lot more of the experience that they're used to with the banking side of things. And so it's going to be a lot more familiar for people to use Coinbase as their entry gate. Some friends that I know from the real estate side have been asking me, how should I get into crypto? And oh, do I have to have my own wallet? And for them, my answer is, well, if I were new, I would look at Coinbase and I would buy and hold on Coinbase until I felt familiar enough and comfortable enough having custody of my own stuff, right? So, yeah, now Coinbase listings, there was another article that we probably won't be sharing, but they're tracking down, they tracked down one of the wallets that was front running Coinbase listings. In other words, an insider or somebody had information on which ones would be added to Coinbase, was buying those tokens in advance, because when new coins were added to Coinbase, that usually caused a huge pump. Now, I'm curious as to the audience feelings on this. What do you think of Elon Musk and his proposed buyout of Twitter? In fact, what did you think of what happened with him buying, what was it, 10%? And then they offered him a board seat, and then he turned it down. I think we all can understand why he turned it down. That board seat came with a lot of strings that he wasn't interested in. He couldn't buy more than 15% or 14% or some number, and that he was basically limited on what he could say about the company. So he turned that down.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to me, Jay. Like, I mean, I'm sure that Twitter makes a good amount of money. I just don't understand what, like why does he want to own Twitter exactly? I mean, and I know that what it says. I can read it, that he told an interview he wanted to steer the company toward looser speech rules. So that's admirable. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I'm just kind of like, all right, like if you buy it, that's fine. But yeah, I'm curious what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, there's a lot happening here. Twitter and other social media has definitely got into the censorship business, deciding whose opinions are fake news and whose aren't, even though so often those decisions, they actually get it completely backwards, and they end up supporting what was fake news, and they end up silencing what was real news. Not in every case, but in a lot of them, enough that you look at them and you're like, okay, so in other words, you're just biased towards this side. And it's interesting that there is a law in the US that protects these companies from lawsuits. I forget the name of it, because in the early days of the internet, they said, well, we can't control what people post on our stuff. We're like a bulletin board that anyone can post anything. So like, we're not responsible then for what they post, because we're not like the New York Times or the Washington Post, where we hire writers and then we screen what they post before it goes on. So we can't be held to the same libel laws that, say, a newspaper is held to. And so Congress agreed, and they gave them added protections. But they have not been acting like a bulletin board, which just lets everyone post the last 2 years. They've gotten in this decide where they kind of decide editorial content, like, well, we like this narrative and we don't like this narrative. So if you're talking about this narrative, we're going to remove your account. So that's okay. They're welcome to do that. And people say it's a private company. It's not a private company. It is a public company. It's publicly traded, but it is a company, and they can make those decisions kind of, maybe, and maybe not. So in American politics, it's kind of weird, like these little games that are played. And this isn't the first time that these games have been played by politicians and the corporations that they're in bed with. It's actually, I don't remember if it was the 30s or the 40s in American politics. But back then, if you wanted to have debates, what you would do was you would literally go get a soapbox and you would stand up on it, and you would, with your loudest booming voice, talk about whatever. And there would be a debate, and people would gather around, and they'd be like, yes, or they'd be like, no. And people would say their fair thoughts, right? So one party had it in their mind that, okay, shoot, we can't stop this free speech, but we hate them saying it. So they bought up all the street corners where people would interact, or they would work with private corporations that would buy all these street corners. And then they're like, hey, you can't talk on our street corners because of private property and stuff. And so in essence, silencing free speech, right? So it took a little while for the laws to get around to then re-enable free speech. That did happen. And I think we're on that same curve here, right? Politically incorrect speech is specifically the speech that needs to be protected. If you think about it, it was once politically correct to believe that women were inferior to men. And if you said that they weren't and they were equal to men and deserved the right to vote, you were anti-science, you were completely politically incorrect. So it's interesting to see this fight going down again. I think some of this is about free speech. I think Twitter is missing huge opportunities that aren't seen because I think they've reached like beyond what they shot for and just done really well. And they're really just coasting, but they're going to end up in functional obsolescence because they're just coasting. Nothing is happening with them. I think Elon Musk sees the trajectory that they're going, which is downward. I mean, he made the case that a lot of the biggest Twitter accounts haven't even posted on Twitter in forever. And that's not good. If you're in this means less people are really using you anymore. Even though you have all these users, they're not active on your platform. That means they're going to other platforms and you're on your way to a huge decline. And so I think some of it is the free speech thing that he wants to re-enable like greater free speech. And we would love to see that in the crypto space. There are certain narratives that if you even bring up on different platforms, that then you get silenced, even if 6 months later we find out that that exact narrative was actually true and everything else was wrong. They don't go back and apologize to you. So I would like to see less censorship. I would like to see Elon Musk own Twitter, but we'll see how this shakes out. I guess the latest is that there's another buyer that's offered as much as Elon because the board's in a really tricky place. They have fiduciary responsibility to their investors, right? And what happens if they don't sell to him at a 50% profit for everyone who owns Twitter stock is then he'll likely dump his Twitter stock, and that will cause a big decrease in the price. Now, at 10%, if he sells all of his 10%, depending on how fast he sells it, that can tank the price by 50%. So literally they could go, instead of making a 150% profit or 50% increase, they could go to losing half of their funds. And so it'll be weird. Now, if a third party, and I heard the third party that wants to buy it has offered higher, is from the crypto space, which would be really interesting to see who that is. But I hope overall it goes to less censorship and, we can do whatever we want to we're a private company. And these are supposed to be like a bulletin board. And politically incorrect speech is specifically the speech that we need to protect because otherwise you're not having a true and honest debate. Does that make sense? So not that we always like to hear it. I don't always like to hear it, though. I'm weird in that I can listen to other people share their politics. They could be the exact opposite from me, and it never hurts my feelings and doesn't offend me. So a lot of people get super hurt and offended. I don't really understand that because I can like the person and not agree with their side.
Yeah, Jay, I'm with you. There's Zach, our buddy Zach, again says I like no censorship of political news, but on the other hand, I am happy I don't have to listen to blatant racists or Hitler lovers, for example.
I know.
So yeah, it is. It's tough. It's like
so few of those. I know that gets thrown out there, but like I'm trying to think of actual like pro Hitler stuff, and I can't even think of an actual real example. That label gets thrown around a lot, but I'm trying to think of somebody who actually says those kind of things, and I don't see it very much.
But maybe it's because it's all censored. I don't know.
yeah, maybe it could be, right? Let's see.
Bob the Builder, by the way, our buddy.
Yeah, let's take a look at
super chat. Yeah, he says, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you'll be with us for this 5-year plan. I'm glad you still do the live streams. I really enjoy long videos.
Thanks, Bob. We appreciate your super chats as well. It's just really a token of support, and we very much appreciate that. I do this all for you. It does add a lot to my day. I enjoy it, though. I especially love the interaction with you and the audience. Telegram, you can join that, our Telegram group below. And if you tag me on questions you have there, I do get back to you. And I do interact more with our community on Discord that have joined our Patreon. And so I make the highest commitment level to them because they're paying to be there. Now it's only $20 a month, or just under $20 a month, to join the basic level. And so it's a good way to also get in a group of like-minded people. Yeah. Chris Ashby says, absolutely, Jay. The media and social media companies used to keep the government narratives in check. Now they're pushing the same view in unison. They do. What's interesting is they're not holding the government in check. They're actually holding the people in check against the government in some ways, right? So I don't like to see that. It's never a good thing, because even if it leads to good things, like when they banned Alex Jones, right? I was like, I tried to listen to Alex Jones and it lasted about 2 minutes. And I was like, yeah, it just seems so out there. And when they banned him, I was like, I don't know that I agree with the stuff he says at all. But them banning him is not a good thing, because that's just going to be the first person they ban. And then they're going to get more and more and more to where they just ban anyone who has a view different than theirs. And that's not free speech at all. I like the values that American engenders in the rights to free speech and other things. It really has, the U.S. has done, and we all have our complaints about the U.S., but can we be realistic? Like, it has pushed the economics of the world forward in so many ways. I mean, how many of you out there use an iPhone? Would we have an iPhone if it weren't for the freedoms of America that created the innovation that drove that? What kind of computer are you using? Would we have anything near what we do if it weren't for the United States and their technological advances? The internet, I mean, really, would we have the internet if that is another thing that mostly came out of America? So there are a lot of things. We all have some complaints about the U.S. and America. It's fair to say I like to look at the whole picture, and that countries aren't necessarily all good or all bad. There's usually lots of good and some bad, and the ratios depends on the country and the current political leaders of them. All right, let's look at some more news. Ethereum and ND wanted to talk about this as well. Ethereum merge push to Q3 as final chapter of proof of work looms. When you were new in this space, I think you're muted again.
For heaven's sake, man. Yeah, no, like a lot of everybody knows I've been in the space for about 8 months is all, right? And this was the big news, right? Like it was August, and then all of a sudden it was September, and the NFT boom was happening, and the topic on everybody's mind was just how high these gas fees are, how high the gas fees are for ETH. Like, oh, it's crazy. Oh, but don't worry, because ETH 2.0, like ETH 2.0, it's coming soon. Like first of next year, like the gas fees are going to be so much better, this and that, and like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't care that much that they're pushing it back again. They're saying in the few months after June. So now they're saying like, oh, is it Q3? Well, a few months. I mean, that could be 4 or 5, right? Like, so now we're Q4. Like, I don't know. Like the thing that I took from this is that like ETH is a huge chain, and like obviously everybody, like it's going to take a lot to do something like this. But like when other projects, and everybody knows that I'm a huge like Omi nerd, but like when when the money transmitter license hasn't happened yet, like so many people are like, oh, like Omi, like they're so like they can't even get their crap together, this and that, like this is Ethereum and they keep pushing this back, so it's not just, I don't know, it happens in obviously in a lot of different spaces.
Yeah, it does. And delays happen, right? And speaking of Omi, let's look at their price. I'm going to show you. In fact, let me pull it up on TradingView and get a little bit. I like what I'm seeing. Now, I bought some at these high prices when it was trading in this range. Specifically, I bought some at 7.2, and actually here closer to the top at almost 0.8 cents. So 0.72 and 0.8. But I definitely actually bought some more as it did this. But look at this bigger pattern that's happening. We're going to remove these drawings, and this is a beautiful W pattern, which is a double bottom. Whoa. Okay. Yes. I just. Okay. Don't necessarily want a red line, but okay. I guess it wants to do red. So what often happens with these is like we talked about in the Cardano breakout, it usually comes up, retests the previous highs. Boy, okay, there we go. Retest the previous highs, breaks down. Sometimes it'll bust through that, but it often breaks down. It comes back to this level. And then it goes off to the races again. So I'm really happy with this. I thought I was happy with my OMI bags. I think I've doubled my OMI bags from where it was, where I had bought here. I doubled it down here. So they say double down, right? That's what I doubled down on it. Now, feel free to make your own decisions. That's just my own choice. I like OMI. I like the fundamentals behind it. There's I guess another game coming out that's going to use OMI, though I don't know which one. I saw an article about that. So specifically, I love where this pattern is at. Now, could it break? Boy, my drawing skills are terrible, but likely this won't go below this. It could. It's just not likely to. And that we're probably pretty near the bottom was my guess. And that's why I've been loading up into it. I love talking about Akomi. So if you haven't already joined us on a live stream on Wednesday evenings, we do them at 7:30 Pacific time on Wednesdays. Tether USDT. So this is good news. Like Polkadot was on track and it hit some major slowdowns too. It's funny, we're seeing slowdowns in ETH 2.0 rollout. We saw slowdowns in Cardano, slowdowns in these ecosystems because the third generation blockchains, they're trying to build their foundations right. And this changing from ETH to ETH 2.0 is a really, really big deal. And it's a huge change of the foundation. So, and they have to make sure they do it right. But Polkadot is really getting some traction again. It was really hot a year ago, and it totally had the brakes slammed on it when China started cracking down tremendously on crypto, because a lot of the developers developing for the DOT ecosystem were out of China, as well as a lot of investment money. So it's nice to see the DOT ecosystem really moving forward, and Tether's USDT stablecoin enters the Polkadot ecosystem with Kusama's launch. Now, this is big news. Part of one of my
huge
interests is blockchain gaming. Now, I've covered Myria, and I'll cover Myria probably a little bit more in depth this coming week. Why am I so bullish on blockchain gaming? Well, I'm bullish on certain aspects of it. Number one, a lot of money there because I call it the ownership society. I play video games. I love video games since I was like 6 years old, and they had the ColecoVision out, and I remember playing it at my dad's friend's house, and it was the coolest thing ever. It was like having an arcade game in your house that you didn't have to pay a quarter every time you wanted to play it. So I was like, wow, that's so amazing. Now, why is blockchain gaming such a big deal? Because you own the assets. So why in current games do you not own the assets? Well, there's two reasons. Number one, the game makers don't want you to own the assets because they feel like they can make more money if they keep ownership of the assets and can revoke your license to play it if they don't like your behavior or whatever. So there's something that they have to hold over you. And that's just what they're used to doing, right? And they're used to that kind of control. However, we saw with Axie Infinity, that was super simple game. But because of the ownership sections of it, the game itself on the little like 4.25% fee that they were charging on every marketplace transaction, they didn't charge you to play the game or anything. That's where they made their money, is on the marketplace transaction, that little marketplace transaction, because they created an ownership society where you actually own the items and you could get these items and you could trade them if they increased in value. In fact, you could earn Smooth Love Potion, which was used for breeding, which had a value to it as well, and you could sell that. This whole concept made the company crazy amounts, far more than so many video games out there, and still to this day continues making tons of money. And they're recovering from a hack that we've covered on this channel, and that sucks for them. But in fact, I think we have an article specifically about that and who the hackers likely are related to. but there's so much money coming into this space. And so I'm looking for more strategic investments. I was an early investor in Axie Infinity as well as Gods Unchained, which were some of the first examples of blockchain gaming that had good backing that you could invest in. And I think there will be a lot more winners coming out of this side. So Sony gets that too. And that's why they're throwing $1 billion into this. Now, it's not just Sony. It's also the people behind. It says Sony is joined by Kirkby. I think I'm saying that right. The investment company behind the Lego Group, which also decided to invest $1 billion in Epic Games.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's Jay. When bringing it back to Omi again, when Vivi did their Ukrainian like the drop for for philanthropy and helping out Ukrainians, we were so excited because I think they raised like $782,000, in a couple of minutes, right? And that was a really cool thing. Fortnite did the same thing, where they said any purchases made through their platform for their like V-Bucks or whatever would go toward Ukraine. And Fortnite raised, I think it was $143 million. So make no mistake about this, that when we're talking about crypto gaming, it is going to be massive, no question. But Sony investing in Epic Games, for me, this is it, and this is kind of a bigger question overall, is there are so many crypto projects that are being funded right now for crypto gaming. And the thing that I wonder about is does something like, Sony investing $1 billion into Epic Games for metaverse purposes, does Epic Games just create the Epic verse, and all of these other, smaller metaverses just don't ever pan out, or a lot of the other play to earn crypto gaming because they're already they're already, or the Blizzards of the world or whoever it is, right? They just come in and kind of bully everybody out.
So part of the challenge is when you have such a big ship is turning the big ship. This is frequently a problem as technology evolves. Why did IBM not make Microsoft Windows? Why did they allow Microsoft to come in when they had all the funds? They could have started a research division and grown this and make an operating system and crush Microsoft. And now Microsoft probably bigger than IBM. So why did that happen? Then why didn't Microsoft not make Facebook and then have Facebook come out? Why did Microsoft not make Google? And so I think we'll see a combination of both, but sometimes these big ships, they throw money at a problem, but they throw it wildly and they don't make specific good decisions. So what was the number? I read an article about how much Facebook has spent on their metaverse stuff already, and the number was staggering, and they don't have anything meaningful. In fact, if we were to take a poll of the crypto audience and say how many people would even use Facebook's metaverse, probably 95% would say never. I mean, it would have to be so good to change all these no's to yeses that are they even going to be able to do it? Now, there's not that same feeling with Fortnite. If Fortnite all of a sudden went to an ownership society where they took all their existing assets, put them on the blockchain, and then allowed people to freely trade with other people and extract that value to their own wallets, oh my gosh, can you imagine how big that would be? But I bet you that's not the decision they make. See, we're so deep inside of this, we know what decisions they should make, but because we think about this stuff all the time, but sometimes they take their other type of thinking and then steer the ship in a wrong direction, and that allows new starts to come in and crush them. Now, you're not wrong that some of these crypto games starting out, they're not fun enough to last, right? So I think likely a game developer that understands what's going on with crypto and builds an amazing game that happens to be on the blockchain will be way better off than a bunch of crypto people who built a game, right? Because making a game that's interesting enough for people to play is hard. So I think that's where the money is at, is a great game that happens to be on the blockchain. So we'll see who does a good job doing this. I think Gala Games has done tremendously. Unfortunately, I missed out on Gala's early days. I really didn't know that much about him until about 4 months ago. And I hold a little bit, not a lot. So, but I think it'll do well from here and go up. Myria is doing the same type of thing. They're doing some public sale of their nodes coming up. It'll be like 2.5 or 3 ETH. And even though that's a lot, it'll probably be a pretty good price. Gala Games, I forget what their nodes came out at, maybe $5,000. And their nodes, somebody sent me a link to what the Gala nodes are currently selling at, and I think it's $300,000 per node. Now, what a node is it gives you a license to run their software and in return earn tokens every month. And so I don't chase green candles that I missed, and clearly Gala was a boat that I missed, because I think they have a good chance at doing really well. And this new company, Myria, looks really solid. I talked to the CEO and the CMO, and we'll see in the coming months if we can bring them on the channel. That's one to watch for. Now, they're not doing the traditional raise a bunch of money through tokens. They're raising a bunch of money through selling these nodes that give you the right to tokens. They are doing a small token sale, some kind of pre-sale. I have no details on what that'll look like, though. All right, Kid Summer Camp going on for crypto. That's cool. We'll probably see more of this coming up. And oh yeah, that's just overall. I had this pulled up so that we could look at some things. I'm curious as to what everyone's thoughts are on XRP and Lightning Network kind of competing against each other. I was seeing in our Telegram chat some of our community members talking about this. I think XRP got the raw end of the regulatory stick, and I think there's probably some shenanigans behind attacking them, and probably some political reasons behind attacking them. And I hate to see that kind of crap, because it's definitely slowed down their momentum. But will XRP be the thing that people use to send money from one place to another? The farther that Lightning Network gets, it seems like they'll compete against each other, especially since Bitcoin is an asset in so much use. But if I had to guess, I think XRP still does well from here, just not as well as it would have otherwise done if the US SEC hadn't picked on them. And I want to congratulate the XRP team for how hard they fought this. They could have just laid down, paid a fine, and that would have set the whole crypto space back, because then the SEC probably just would have moved on to someone else, trying to extract huge fines from them and letters of apologies, and it would have curtailed the space a lot more. So cheers to the executives over XRP. We really appreciate what you've done.
Jay, we got to do the Wand Chain giveaway. I was like, oh, we're just about out of time.
We'll be a little bit late on this, but yeah, let's totally do the Wand Chain giveaway. Now, this one, you might have to make some guesses, but we do have some information on some new networks that are going to list. Let me just see. Pull this up.
And while you're pulling that up, just a reminder. So Jay's going to ask a question. Whoever comments first in the chat, and it'll be on our end what we see first. We'll call out a winner, and then we need your Telegram handle. So your @ handle, so that I can reach out to you on Telegram, and we'll transfer the 125 won to you.
So Wand Chain continues to expand its trustless bridges, and you wonder, well, what is a trustless bridge? Well, the Ronin network was not a trustless bridge, and they compromised like 5 of the 9 validators, and they only had to get 5 of the 9 validators so that they could publish their transactions, so that they could steal 250 million. That's from what's called a trusted bridge, not a trustless bridge. Wand Chain has some of the best trustless bridge technology in the crypto space, and realistically, it should have pumped the Wand Chain price tremendously, as people are starting to realize the I guess how severe the penalties of trusted bridges can be when they're compromised. So they're building 2 more trustless bridges, And so you only have to have one of the two. And you might have to guess because they haven't made the official announcement, though some of this information is known in the space, on which are their two new trustless bridges coming up. One will come up next Tuesday and one will come up the 26th. So first people to guess that are our winners. While we're waiting on that, yeah, I just want to read through the chat, see if there's anything else I missed. Not you says, Omi will melt faces. #soon.
Yeah, you missed that, and then you missed Chris Ashby's. A lot of stuff happened. One is that Chris Ashby said the best line that I've ever seen, probably, "Yes, it will, Indiana Jones style." Thinking about the Ark of the Covenant opening and like all the Nazis, their faces all melting. I was laughing so hard. So then, then not use like, ah ha ha. But then he also said he had a typo. It said Chris Ashbaby, which I think is now going to be my pet name for Chris Ashby is Chris Ashbaby. So a lot of good things happened from that exchange there.
Lightning Network was meant for small P2P, small transaction mostly. It's centralized, non-transparent, requires pre-funding, and there are fees. Good points. Banks and governments will not be using Lightning and Strike. Some governments are, but you're right that this is El Salvador's government. Now, I remember when I was working with the Latino community, I taught English class many years ago as service. They were mostly Spanish speakers, but some of them were French and actually some of them from Africa. In the class, I got to know people from all over Latin America. I really enjoyed that time. And at the time, El Salvador had one of the most corrupt governments. It was so unsafe. And if you think about it, lack of security in your country, lack of being safe is a result of huge corruption in your country. The worse the corruption gets, the worse the crime gets. And so El Salvador was one of the most corrupt countries in the world as rated by their crime. Their crime was extensive. It was so bad. And that has changed a lot. And they have made huge improvements. I mean, I couldn't even believe the changes that have happened. San Salvador was like number 2 as the most dangerous city to live in the world. And that is no longer the case. In fact, some of those cities are in the United States these days, which is a complete flip of events. So good questions. AVAX, ADA, BNB, ETH. So let's just say one of them is closely tied to the Polkadot ecosystem, if that gives you any hints.
Ooh, I think I know it now. I didn't know it before, but I think I know it now.
El Salvador is not using it themselves in their Fed. I mean, it's legal tender. Yes, it's not their, true. It isn't their central bank digital currency. They are, a lot of these countries are somewhat pegged to the dollar. Kusama, no, it's not Kusama.
Ooh, I didn't know it. That was my guess, Ryan.
So there is, so I'm going to give another hint. So this is the version that's on Kusama for it, Moon River. So what is the version of Moon River that's on Polkadot? Now, it's not Algorand. That would be an interesting bridge, though. Very interesting. You know, it'd be a really interesting bridge over to Monero. I don't hold any Monero, but I love the thought of it. Karura. Nope. There we go. Moonbeam. Now, Zach technically had it with Glimmer, right? I think Zach is our winner.
Oh, man. GSC, I just totally, yeah. I probably
Zach,
faked
good job,
GSC
brother.
out. Yeah.
So, Zach, if you'll give us, in fact, Zach, you were in our Telegram earlier, right? So, D, just confirm for us that you, the right Zach, make sure, and then D will get your OneChain wallet, and he'll send it to me, and I'll send you the funds. But special thanks to OneChain for their strategic relationship with us, and we love giveaways from solid projects. We do get a lot of offers from a lot of companies asking for sponsorships or paid reviews or other things. What we want is strong strategic relationships that we can also give giveaways to our audience. It has to be a project that I can believe in. And, I'm picky that way. I know that means we say no all the time, but when OneChain reached out to us, we said absolutely. I've been personally an investor in OneChain for like 3 years now. I hold a lot of their tokens, and I love their team, and I love the community, and I love what they're doing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. If you haven't already, make it rain on that like button. Would you take a moment to do that now? And subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. So now we're just doing live streams on Fridays, and we have recorded videos throughout the week. They're a little bit shorter, a little bit more focused and targeted, so that you can look at one specifically that you want to learn more about. That won't take as much time in your day, because I know all of you still have your day jobs and you're very, very busy, and you try to fit some crypto research in there. So we're trying to make more condensed, powerful videos for you. So it's helpful as you're doing your research on what you want to do, what timing and what projects you're interested in. Hopefully this complements your research well. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you all soon. Remember, no rain, no gain.
Came into this space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic to dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. The time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I'll follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.